right. So David Fox, how are you today? Good to see you.
I'm awesome. How are you doing, Ryan?
Doing great. Not gonna lie, being in South Florida is this is the time you want to be here. It's not always this nice, but it's certainly beautiful right now. And we'll get a taste of some nice weather here soon. Going to Denver with the family. You're in Salt Lake, Utah, Salt Lake City. Where are you at?
I'm in Salt Lake City. I lived in Denver for 15 years, so awesome. It's a great town. You'll awesome. Have fun in Denver.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. My wife's not been, so she's going to be in for a treat. It is one of the coolest places. So, yeah. So today, we have chatted, and we both have. I've committed myself completely to the contracting audience, and you have spent significant time in that space. And as you and I were just kind of chatting on LinkedIn, it just kind of became evident that we should come together, share some time, and be able to share with the people who follow us some of our thoughts, and just have a conversation that would be helpful to anybody watching this that's in the contracting world. So for those in my network who don't know you, would you just take a moment to introduce who you are, how you're helping contractors, and just kind of make an introduction, and then maybe I'll do the same for your audience.
Awesome. I would love that. So I'm David Fox. I'm a marketing strategist and a fractional director of marketing focused on the construction contracting industry. And honestly, what I focus on is helping contractors grow fast. A lot of that boils down to helping them remove roadblocks and optimize their marketing vendors and lead generation, so that their marketing is helping them grow instead of kind of just being a big headache that keeps them stuck where they are.
Awesome. I can't wait to ask you.
You want to know more than that?
I can't wait to ask you more. So I'll ask you some of those questions shortly. And if anybody doesn't know me, I'm Ryan Groth, the founder of Sales Transformation Group, and I am helping contractors move from revenue roller coaster ride you've never been on, unpredictability, cash flow, slow cash flow, to predictable revenue by moving into private and higher ticket clients, and with precision and predictability through proven sales strategies. So so glad we can spend some time together. So you're the marketing guru today, and I'm the sales guru, and I think both of those go hand in hand. And I think what started our conversation was, I can help people close the leads when they come, but they can only prospect and generate so many relationships, and it's sometimes nice to have that brand and that marketing there to really, bring an inbound attraction, which is powerful. But then you also face struggles with contractors who don't have any sales processes, and they're really undisciplined, and they don't have any structure. They're not accountable. They don't have the renewal of the mind that's required to be successful in sales, and leads are coming in. They're not closing, and they're like, what the heck? And you're saying, well, I know what it is. And so, we both kind of have the similar solution, which is getting work in a predictable way. And, but they go hand in hand, right? So, so as it relates to marketing, David, I'm going to ask, 5 different challenges that are, things that contractors who want to generate more leads through digital efforts, which is your world. What are the things that they're doing, or what are the challenges that they're solving? How are they doing that? Kind of go with the 5 and just spend plenty of time just sharing that.
Sure. Well, actually what I put together before our call was kind of 5 ways that contractors should be thinking about their marketing. Okay. And just to let you know, I do everything. It's not just digital. I mean, digital is terrific because you can track it. It's also terrific because the customer is reaching out to you. But actually, digital agencies that work with contractors are one of my biggest referral sources, because often a great digital agency can get a contractor on the first page of Google. They can get them views, they can get them clicks, they can get social engagement, but then something is busted somewhere in the conversion funnel, if that makes sense. And often the tactical service provider has no clue what it is. Maybe the messaging is wrong. Maybe they don't really know their buyer. Maybe they have a website or a landing page that just isn't getting the job done with their prospect. And often tactical marketers have no clue what the issue is. And so, I had a client recently that was spending about $5,000 a month on pay-per-click, and they were getting literally nothing for it. And it was really a matter of going in and figuring out what was broken. And as soon as that was fixed, these guys started getting not only leads, but the right kind of leads really, really quickly. And now they're converting about $80,000 a month in sales on that $5,000, whereas they were converting nothing before. And the problem was something was very fixable. But by the time they fixed it, they had spent 60 or 70 grand and got nothing for it. That's a really common marketing challenge.
So when you mention the ways they should be thinking about their marketing, sounds like what you're saying is they should be thinking about their marketing spend as this should equal sales. This should equal something. And if it's not, there's something broken. If it's not working, was that the idea? Is like we should be getting
totally.
an ROI? Yeah. So what's yeah, go ahead.
Marketing should be creating a prospect. As you and I have talked about, like the number one problem with my clients is we're creating prospects for them and then they have no sales process. And so being able to plug in effective, qualified marketing and lead generation with a killer sales process is certainly a recipe for powerful growth.
And what we said on our call before this that got us excited to talk was that you and I both know that the best ones, the ones who are crushing their market, is the reason why people are crushing is because they suck at sales. And forgive me, I mean, I hate to be this blunt, but they suck at sales and they suck at marketing, or they're trying to do one marginally and the other one's getting left. And it makes it really easy for the ones who are disciplined in both and really focusing on both as a priority to really differentiate. And, I did a post earlier this week where, out of the 3,400 sales organizations in the specialty contracting SIC code within the data set that I have, that I use with my analysis, the average sales percentile is 42 out of 100, which is in the weak category. So so we know, I mean, there's usually about 3 to 5 commercial contractors in each market who are like legit, and they're doing these things consistently and they're just sticking with it, right? And it's the other ones that they differentiate so easily because everybody really neglects these things, right?
Totally.
So so ROI in creating a prospect. What other areas that are either challenges or ways that they should be thinking about their marketing?
So one of the things that I like to share with contractors, and I tell you the reason that I love contractors, and about 75% of my business over the last 10 years has been contractors. But what I love about contractors is that they are great at what they do. And typically they're people that can learn marketing and sales processes. And that's not true in every industry. But I think what's missing, especially in marketing, is a way of thinking. A lot of contractors think that they can just go out and buy a bunch of tactical solutions from, vendors that knock on their door. And a lot of them wind up getting, quote, burned because, they just don't get the leads and the qualified prospects that they need to grow their business. And so, a lot of my clients will start talking about things like strategy. I think it's really vital to have a plan. I think it's super vital to know who your buyer is. And in contracting, they'll often say, well, yeah, it's people with buildings. Like in commercial roofing, people will say, well, my buyer is a property manager that manages, multifamily, or they do, flat roofs or whatever. And the truth is that that you shouldn't view marketing that way. You should really.
How should they be?
Yeah. Anyway, the right way to do it is to really boil it down to who your buyer is. What their pain is, what their hot buttons are, where they look for credible information, and then figure out how you're going to make that person's life easier. Because just like sales, I mean, marketing is about capturing the attention of a person. Right. It's about solving that person's problem. It's about giving that person what they want. And so often the problem with contractor marketing is there's no strategy. It's me too marketing. They look at their competition and they say, well, my competitor is doing X, so I'm going to do the same thing. And then they wind up getting lost in the fray instead of standing out and being unique, instead of being that company that exactly their ideal client goes, oh my gosh, where have these guys been my entire life? This is exactly what I'm looking for. This is exactly the contractor that we want to build a long-term relationship with. They get 10 Google pages open and they just go, gosh, they all look exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And then a really great company that is outstanding in ways that matter to customers just winds up fading into the background. And so they miss out on a lot of great prospects, even though they're spending the money. Does that make sense?
Right. It sounds like the gap is contractors haven't dug deep enough to know who they really want to work with and who they really want to work for.
Not a lot of strategy, typically.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of that thinking. And here's the problem that I see. They don't understand the value of that thinking, because they will. You and I both know contractors are so industrious. You can't stop them when they get their eyes set on something. They work harder than anybody else. And when they get their eyes set on something, they are going to go. But the problem is, if they don't know why, they're not going to do it because it's the next shiny object. I mean, there's enough of that. And everyone's like, well, look at this. I got this up. So the reality is the people knocking on their door who aren't getting them the results, the reason why that's not happening is because they're not helping them get strategically what's required. And you have the experience and the expertise and the accountability that you require to know that in order to get results, you have to go that deep and to go that specific.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, one thing that I'd really like to understand from your perspective is once a contractor has a qualified lead and they have kind of fixed those marketing challenges and they're getting the right people in the door, what happens next? Because I see a lot of contractors dropping the ball at that point. I mean, the phone will ring and somebody will pick it up and maybe they say the right thing, maybe they don't. But, I have a lot of contractors that will say, well, marketing doesn't work. And then you get in and look at it and you go, well, actually, your marketing is working pretty well. It's your sales process that's broken.
Right. Well, before I answer that, what are you seeing typically happen?
The comment that I typically get from contractors is, usually they blame it on the marketing. A lot of the folks, that I talk to will say, the leads are weak. We're getting the wrong leads. We're getting the wrong people. This isn't working. It's not functioning. We've tried this. We've tried that. We've done SEO and PPC, and we've done social, and we've done video and TV and radio, and we're just not getting the jobs that we want to get. And and often we'll come in and we'll fix the marketing, but then they're still having those problems. And we're saying, we're looking at them from an analytical standpoint. We're saying, well, look, you just got 100 qualified leads. Why aren't your sales going up?
So the first reason is they don't have a plan of where they want to grow. Here's a quote. Okay, here's a quote. Client said before working with me, here was their plan. Our plan was just get as much work as we can and do as much work as we can. And I was like, yeah,
as you can, right?
Yeah, just do as much, get as much and do as much. And so, and the reality is it takes a lot more work to build a plan than that. But once that plan is built, because the reality is you can feed them leads, but they don't have a sales plan, they don't have goals, and they don't have accountability, they don't have incentive, whether it's intrinsic or even altruistic or extrinsic kind of motivation for the team members to do that, and then giving them the steps in order to do so, and the mindset renewal in order to handle those leads effectively. There's a lot of transformation that has to occur. So there's like a structure build, kind of version 1 foundation to get it going, and then you start to get movement. But there has to be a lot that gets done before that actually can convert really well. But let's just kind of give the scenario of there's somewhat of a sales structure in place, and there's a plan, and there's some sales guys, account managers who are prepared to take that, and that's their job, and they're responsible for it. So, first of all, what I would say is I would teach them that you don't have a qualified lead yet. You're skeptical. So I teach my people to be very skeptical, because that positions them to ask more questions versus solve the problem too fast. And the reality is when you solve the problem really fast and you don't get to emotions, you stay in the intellect. And when you remain in the intellect, that shops. So I like to tell my clients, the intellect shops, but the emotions buy. And
I totally agree with that. That's spot on.
Yeah. So what we have to do is I have to renew the way my clients think about leads. So a client of mine who's been trained and who's gone through a transformation, who would work with someone like you, what they would get is a lead, and they would say, oh, great, I have an opportunity. Let me do a discovery call and find out more information and contact them before anybody else contacts them. And let me go ahead and make sure that I have a good feel, and they connect with me emotionally and share a little bit of their frustrations before they try to invest that into any other contractor. And that way they feel they can trust me more, and they know me more. And so what I do is that they would do that, and they would go and have an appointment, and they would set a calendar invite with a location and a time frame and an expected amount of time, and let them know they're going to ask them some questions before they go forward. And then they would be really skeptical, and then they would follow my sales process to a T. And then they don't measure it as qualified until they're kind of toward the end. And at that point, they're going to schedule, of course, their takeoff and estimate process and compelling presentation and things of that nature, and close the deal. But when we remain in the intellect, when we think that we have a qualified lead, which I like that you tell your clients it's a qualified lead, which is fine. My clients know that that's not qualified, isn't qualified until I've got my hands on it, right? Until we touched it, and then I've measured their ability to buy with the process that I teach them. But that's a mindset, because most of them want to go jump to quote and hope stage. Let me give them a price and let's get it. And when you do that, we remain in the intellect, and when we remain in the intellect, they shop you out. You give them a lot of free consulting. You just spent, probably upwards to $1,000 to $1,200 putting together a re-roof proposal if you spent the time to actually do it. And that's a lot of money that goes down the toilet very, very quickly. So your lead that they just dropped out, or however many dollars a month for you to generate a certain amount of leads, not only was that blown, but it was the time that they invested blown. And then you add on the time that they could have been spending with a qualified opportunity if they knew how to qualify blown. All that just adds up insurmountably. So you take all that for every single lead, and you turn it upside down to qualified leads that you're providing with qualified management of the sales process. And what you have is the difference between an apex predator in your market and a wannabe.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And probably the number one problem that I see with contractors that I just meet and talk to is exactly that. It's just exactly what you said. And actually, a lot of them view successful marketing and successful lead generation as the number of laydowns that marketing produces. So they'll say, well, I generated 1,000 leads and I got, 20 sales. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. You should be getting, a lot more sales than that on 1,000 leads. But what they're really looking to do is to skip the sales process altogether and go right from marketing prospect to estimate to check.
Bingo.
And that's a very inefficient way of doing business. And of all the companies that I've worked with over the years, and I have had contractors that are Inc. 500 and Inc. 5,000 contractors and fastest growing in their area, definitely market dominators, none of them have relied on laydowns. They think of a laydown as, kind of a gift or a gimme, but there's no way to create a process for growth around laydowns, because laydowns are luck.
That's a great point.
It's like a slot machine. You got
the sale despite your sales ability, not because of your sales ability.
Totally. And so I look at it as turning marketing and sales into an investment instead of a gamble.
Wonderful. That's great. You can't build a growth strategy around laydowns. That's so good. No, you can't. And another thing, though, that I see is that my clients, you mentioned something earlier. You said, oh, I didn't get the jobs that I want. What I do is I transform that into, wait, did you get the jobs that you want or the accounts that you wanted?
Totally.
Right? There's a big transition there, because one is transactional with the project, the other one's relational with an ongoing account. And if you land me one $3,300 repair, I just got an account. Mm-hmm. Because what happens from there is that I'm proactively out in front. I'm adding value. They're a part of our, to the point where my clients now have a business development manager who's touching and through email and through touches and just strategies to bring value and to build relationship. And what happens from there is that now you have somebody who trusts you more, they like you more, they spend a little bit more with you, and you get the job done when you deliver. And so when you get that, the contractor gets that prospect that you provided for them, and it turns into $3,300, they should be jumping around in their office, because that is going to turn into a $40,000 a year account, which is going to end up giving you a $200,000 replacement job in 3 years. But that takes time. And the problem is these contractors want the quick money. And so they forsake the hard stuff. But it's the ones that do the hard stuff they've earned the right to play in those sandboxes where there's 1 to 3 contractors with people who want to buy based on value, and they pay quickly. They don't hold your money for 100 days, all that stuff, and give you predictability and working capital to grow your business, because everybody wants to grow their business. I mean, most of them, or they're ready to make a transition and get some succession planning in place. But how can you have a succession plan if you don't have a sales plan? And how can you have a sales plan if you don't have a marketing plan? It's like no wonder people are struggling for handoff of generational wealth and all that stuff. So this is important, and you got to go deeper, and you got to go strategic, and you got to take the time and do the work. And but when the work is done, you've earned the right to play at another level and get the results. And so I appreciate some of those thoughts that you shared and talked about, man. That was awesome. Some good nuggets in that. So thank you.
You know what? In my mind's eye, running a business, and you've been involved in businesses, and I've built and run a couple of businesses that were fairly successful. And the truth is running a business is pretty damn hard. But it's not much harder to do it right than it is to do it wrong. I mean, you're still showing up and putting in your 80 hours a week. It's just, are you doing it efficiently in a way that's going to put real money in your pocket, grow the value of your asset, and help you achieve your dreams, or are you doing it inefficiently? Are you spending a lot of time on Facebook and hanging around the water cooler and waiting for laydowns? To me, it's just not that much tougher to do it right than to do it wrong. And I've watched contractor after contractor after contractor in my career get rich by doing it right. And I've also watched people who really refuse to adopt these plans and these processes that we're talking about. And as a result, they wind up working really, really hard for a pretty crummy paycheck. They own a pretty bad job. They own a job. They own a bad job. And at the end of the day, their company isn't really worth anything because their company is them. It's not a reproducible system and process.
Come on, bro. Wonderful stuff. So I think we've had a great conversation, and we should definitely have another one. And
awesome.
I appreciate that. So here's what I'd like to ask you is, if anybody is watching this and they're interested in connecting with you further about lead gen and strategy of marketing, how can they get a hold of you, and how can they get involved with what you're doing? Or let's just start with, how can they get a hold of you?
David at foxcmo.com. If I were more organized, I would have that written down on a little whiteboard for you, but just David at FoxCMO, as in chiefmarketingofficer.com. How do my folks get a hold of you?
Well, they can go ahead and email me at rgroth, Groth, at salestransformationgroup.com. And also my LinkedIn, I'm on it every day. It's actually pretty bad. My screen time is telling me how much I'm spending on this, but it's prospecting, man. Prospecting methods. So it's good. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to make myself feel better. I feel like I'm on the phone a lot, but it's amazing what it can do.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time. It's great to get your insights.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking forward to doing more with you. So
awesome.
Good chatting with you, David.
Great. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.